This game is the best example of HDR working with black frame insertion, and the reason is the HDR setting of this game is messed up. But thanks to that, it's working perfect with black frame insertion. So I think that the problem on this game HDR is like doing this. It's like you go here to settings, and then you go to brightness, and you raise this number, screen brightness. So it's going to raise everything, but you're not going to have perfect blacks. This game still have perfect blacks, but somehow has everything lifted, and that is working perfect with black frame insertion. So what I was thinking is, if game developers do this on every single game and they give you an HDR option for black frame insertion, it would be great. But that's not gonna happen because LG C1 with black frame insertion is less dim than the LG CX. The LG C2 is less dim than the C1, and it's different on every TV. Also, gaming monitors that have strobing, backlight strobing, is gonna be different, so it's impossible. But it would be nice, for example, if the modding community they were able to implement something like this, or maybe game developers can develop like a slider or something to give you that option, like a slider that is going to be to calibrate, to adjust for black frame insertion, because this is working amazing. This is HGIG, super bright. You see that light source is almost blinding me. It's super bright. It's super bright, and at the same time I go to the low luminance and it's perfect. Like, I see everything on the dark, so I have no black crush. I have very bright highlights. It is not diluting the colors. It's perfect. I mean, this is the best example that I have that using HDR and black frame insertion at the same time. By far, this is the best example. So this is the best looking game on that sense. This game is not the best looking game, not even close. But I mean, talking about the HDR with black frame insertion to get that motion clarity and super high resolution also. I showed that on a previous video. It was during the day, so now I'm showing it at night. 5120 by 2880 resolution, and I'm using mixed settings to get the performance with such a high resolution, and DLSS quality at the same time. So DLSS quality and this resolution is actually 4K. So yeah, and the peak brightness is 800 and the paper white 180, and it's looking spectacular. I love it. This game is, I'm not very a fan of the game, but I'm gonna play it because it looks so good. So good, I love it. It's having the HDR effect. Of course, black frame insertion is always going to kill the highlights, no matter what. But for me, what I like about HDR is that low luminance detail, and the eyes, your eyes are going to adjust to the low luminance level, and then when you see a bright highlight, that's going to be impressive. Also, it feels like it has more depth on the image. Like it does. So after watching HDR, then you look at an SDR presentation and it's going to look a little bit flat. It's gonna look a little bit flat. But not on every game. There are some SDR games that they look almost like HDR. But this presentation, I'm really impressed. Like, I'm not even playing the game, I'm just opening it and driving around. And also some people ask me about, hey, how about black frame insertion and input lag? Is it bad? No. The input lag, so the black frame insertion is not affecting the responsiveness at all. Not at all. The thing is that if you don't use black frame insertion and instead you have a 60 frames per second game at 60 Hertz, you can use boost mode. So if you use boost mode, that's going to give you a responsiveness like 120 frames. So that doesn't mean black frame insertion is giving you lag, but you do have the option to get a better responsiveness with that feature, with boost mode. You cannot use boost mode with black frame insertion. And the other reason that people might think black frame insertion is actually adding input lag is G-Sync. If you use G-Sync, you have on the NVIDIA control panel an ultra low latency mode that works with G-Sync very well, although I am using that right now and it feels super responsive. I'm not sure if it's working the same way as with G-Sync, but also with G-Sync, if you have a 60 frames, you are really, for example, here on this game, I am really pushing more than 60 frames. So right now the GPU, for example, is at 85%, 87. So really I could be playing at 70, on the 70s and 80s. So 70 or 80 Hertz is gonna feel more responsive than 60. So that's a reason why you might think that black frame insertion is gonna give you lag, it's gonna be less responsive. Of course, if you have a higher. So the reason is that, in order for you to be able to lock the games to 60 frames, your GPU needs to be capable of more than that. So as a consequence, you could be playing at 70, 80 frames, and that would be more responsive. But man, I don't care about that because it feels good, it feels responsive enough, and the difference in motion clarity is so big. It's huge. For example, if this OLED TV, if it doesn't have black frame insertion, I would not buy it. That's how important for me is black frame insertion. If that feature didn't exist on this TV, I would not buy the TV, unless it's like $400. Yeah, if it was $400, okay, 4K, 120 G-Sync, that's good. That's very nice. But for me, black frame insertion is the feature, and it's just sad that they are going backwards on this feature. The LG C2 does not support 120 frames black frame insertion. Why? I have no idea why they are going backwards. It makes no sense. They should be improving it even more, because that's what is making this OLED look like a CRT or an impulse display. So yeah. But yeah, stop complaining. if you stop complaining about that and you appreciate what you have here, it's incredible. I mean, this is really, really impressive. Really, really impressive. HDR, so sharp. Black frame insertion, beyond 4K. This looks incredible. Like, I've never seen this kind of fidelity before getting the OLED. It is really, really absolutely incredible. So let me show you the settings again. The color, this is also very important for me on this TV. The color gamut, for me, it has to be on native. If I use auto, I don't like it. Native 50, 150. If I don't use that, I just don't like it. It's not, I don't like it. Doesn't look good to me. So yeah.